meditation Divankar. And hello to everybody online. If you're watching us, thanks for tuning in. My name is Dalgaranga. Welcome to Sravana. So we're right here. If you're here, that means you're an early bird and you're right on time. And normally as we go, some people will trickle in. There's already some trickling in right now. We're really fortunate today that in a short while at 11:30 we're going to get to hear from Dina, Bandhu, one of my favorite people in the world. Humble, sweet, a lot of realization, reflection, and he'll be sharing with us today. But we start off with kirtan, and kirtan's a great way for us to be able to sort of transition from so much of, I think, Vedic culture. We have our dear Kula Pradeep here, also about honoring transitions and recognizing the transitions, the sandhyas during the day, the transitions from single life into married life, from no kids into kids, from one location to another location, starting a new venture. The transitions are important for us to honor and also take into consideration. And so we're experiencing a transition right now. We're coming from wherever we were in life, and we are coming into a sacred space together. And so we will honor that transition, kirtan. That kirtan will facilitate the transition of consciousness for us to kind of come and be present here. And so we'll welcome in people that are joining us in this transition over the next half hour, and we'll welcome Dina Bandhu to come and sing with us, enlighten us.
Should I play Mridanga or
Kontos, whatever works for you.
Yeah,
They're over here.
Well, let's see what Kula wants to do. What did you say what to do?
Hare
Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming in. So good to see you all. Yadanachi, Jeff, so many wonderful guests. Glad to have you here. Special treat this week. We have Dina Bandhu speaking for us. Yadanachi gave a surprised look as someone who doesn't read our emails. Just joking. But Dina Bandhu is in addition to being a very, very wonderful, sweet, sincere devotee, he's also a very good friend, a longtime community member here at the Bhakti Center. Stayed with us here in the ashram for a while. When I first got to know him many moons ago, is an emblem of service and humility, is a chaplain, am I right?
Yes.
A hospital chaplain?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hospital chaplain, which very much suits his nature of caring, giving, listening, holding space, genuinely caring about another. He's led community groups here at the Bhakti Center for years and has built strong relationships with many of our community members. He's going to be speaking to us today on creativity in Bhakti. He's got a wild streak in him. You may not have recognized that just by looking. But he's an extraordinary musician, multi-talented, multi-disciplined musician. He's going to bring to us how we can express our creative side and the inherent creativity in Bhakti, which I imagine is hard for some of us when we think that, just following spiritual rules means fitting into a certain mold, a certain box, just doing what you're told, surrendering, following authority.
Reading the emails.
Reading the emails. And so glad you're here, Dina Bandhuji. Please join me in welcoming him by giving him a loud round of applause. Are you going to need the TV?
I will.
Okay, let's get you all set up.
Thank you so much. Should be okay.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Once I open this up.
You know what I'm really seeing by Bhagavata?
It's up to you. Let's get this turned on. TV's all hooked up on your computer.
Should be.
I see a mouse. Wow,
Okay.
beautiful Krishna Balaram, and what a sweet looking gingerbread cookie.
Yeah, that's the default setting there. The ginger.
That's-
Not,
that looks
not
like your-
Krishna
that looks like
Balaram,
your
the
creative
gingerbread.
flair. That looks like your creativity popping in.
Okay.
You are live, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Praise God. Oh, fine. Hare Krishna. All right, everyone. Calibrating here. Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this morning. And thank you, Gauranga Prabhu, and everyone for your welcome and for the opportunity to speak this morning. So yes, today's topic will be creativity in Bhakti. So as Gauranga Prabhu was mentioning, at times it may seem that in Bhakti we are called upon to kind of fit into a particular mold or a particular, particular parameter, which on some level is true. We can say that there are rules and regulations and ideals that are placed before us on the path of Bhakti, and those are of great value. But at the same time, Krishna loves individuality. Variety is actually a major quality of the spiritual world. That Krishna loves variety in loving exchange, variety in expression, variety in the different interactions that devotees may have with Krishna and his energies. So in this sense, we can kind of approach this subject in a mood of exploration, but at the same time wanting to seek how we can make our most authentic offerings to Krishna. And in many ways, it may be our outward offerings, but also our our offering is our own self. So we want to offer Krishna our full selves and not hold back. So in this sense, creativity can really be instrumental to our aspiration on the bhakti path. So we can just briefly sing Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Exploring creativity and bhakti, and briefly offer an invocation. Om Ajnanatimandasya Kananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Dhruvyacha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So just to start, I thought it might be nice to share some intentions or purposes of this presentation, or we can say aspirations in offering this presentation. So, as we mentioned, creativity is something that exists within each and every one of us. And that's another point here, that not only for those who engage in creative arts necessarily, that creativity is just inherent within us. So we may practice creativity in the way that we interact with people. We may practice creativity in the way that we see the world, the lens through which we see the world. We may practice creativity in our cooking, or in our, the route that we take when we take a walk. There's just that creative spirit within each and every one of us. So this presentation may focus somewhat on creative arts, but it's not exclusively directed in that way. So just hope and pray that everyone will find some inspiration in this, and something that you can personally kind of bring with you. So, just share a personal introduction. So, for myself, early on, creativity was always something that was very important and vibrant, particularly through music. And prior to getting involved with spiritual life, music was just something, when you have some experience with something that you can feel, okay, there's a place for me in this realm. So music was something that always just felt very natural and made a lot of sense, and ultimately played a big role in my becoming interested in spiritual life, because I'm sure all of you have had some experiences where, whether it's music or art or whatever your personal interest may be, sometimes you feel like it just opens your heart and mind up to a new category of experience. So in that way, it may increase our being inquisitive about what more there is to life beyond the surface, when we have certain types of experiences that kind of crack that open for us. So in my own case, it was music, and also through coming to Krishna consciousness, I found a copy of the Radha Krishna Temple album. Maybe some of you are familiar with this. It's like kirtans that were recorded and produced by George Harrison, but they're very traditional kirtans. Yamuna Devi and a lot of the British yatra at that time, they were recording these kirtans. So that was the first kind of direct contact I had with Krishna consciousness. My friends and I were into collecting records, and we found this record, and really out of this world. So that was kind of the beginning of becoming interested in Krishna consciousness. So so that's just a brief introduction. And again, we'd like to welcome everyone as you're coming in. Ramaji, Keshwar Prabhu, Mangalarti, Balakrishna Prabhu, Jeff Prabhu. So many wonderful devotees here. And I'm so happy to see you. Okay, so we'll start with just some philosophical considerations about creativity. We'll kind of try to establish kind of some philosophical grounding for the concept of creativity within our Shastra. And then we'll move more into some practical considerations of our own experiences related to creativity. So, from Bhagavad Gita, so this is, Krishna is the source of all and is the original creator. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mataha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samandita. So Krishna says here, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So this is just an excerpt from Srila Prabhupada's purport. He says, all Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods. In the Atharva Veda, it is said, Yo Brahmanam vidadati purvam yo vai vedam cha gapayati sma Krishna. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. So these passages very nicely establish Krishna as the source of all creation, as the original creator. Of course, we know that in the kind of Vedic pantheon, sometimes we have this understanding of Brahma, Lord Brahma, as being the creator, but this is more a role that he is empowered to play by Krishna, by Narayana. So Brahma, he plays the role of the creator, particularly in relation to the material manifestation, material universe. But he is directly empowered and outright created by Krishna. Of course, Lord Vishnu, one of his names is Padmanabha, so the lotus, Padma, springs from his navel, his nabha, navel. And Lord Brahma appears on this lotus flower. So he's directly emanating from Krishna. So Brahma is inspired by Krishna in carrying out the function of creation. So Krishna not only empowers Brahma to act in this way, but actually gives him inspiration. So this is coming from Srimad Bhagavata, second canto, and these are the words of Lord Brahma. He's speaking to Narada Muni. Tasyati drashtur ishasya kuta stasya kilatmanaha sriyam sriyami shrishtoham ikshayaiva bichodika. So Lord Brahma is saying, inspired by him only, I discover what is already created by him, Narayana, under his vision as the all-pervading supersoul. And I also am created by him only. So this is another excerpt from Prabhupada's purport here. He says, even Brahma, the creator of the universe, admits that he is not the actual creator, but is simply inspired by the Lord Narayana, and therefore creates under his superintendence those things already created by him, the supersoul of all living entities. So this is a very nice meditation and an example set by Lord Brahma. Of course, in no way can ordinary spirit souls be compared to Brahma. He's in a very high position, but at the same time, Lord Brahma is a jiva. He's jiva tattva. He's a very special jiva who has a very special function and is very elevated. But at the same time, we see here this interaction, one who is creating. So Brahma is creating the entire material universe. So what to speak of if we make a drawing or something like that, right? So Brahma and his attitude all throughout that creation is, I'm only inspired by Krishna. I'm only inspired, I'm just rediscovering things that Krishna has already placed before me. So in that way, it's a nice meditation for us as we try to do any kind of creative endeavor, recognizing that actually we're not creators, but at the same time we have inherited, as we're part and parcel of Krishna, and we'll get to that, we've inherited some desire, some inherent urge to create something. And in that way, we can process that by simply discovering the beauty and the different intricacy of what Krishna has already created and placed before us. And our exploration of that and our kind of personal interaction with that may lead to what we can call being creative or creating certain things. But so Brahma establishes this very nice paradigm here. So this is a really beautiful picture. I always was attracted to this painting. It's really unique, showing that so many things are emanating from Lord Brahma. So we see here, just among others, Puranas, medical science, music, Saregama Padani, says there. Narada Muni is coming from Brahma also, and power of speaking, and so Kardama Muni is down there. So many things, and even up here it says fear of death. So many subtle aspects of our human experience are emanating from Brahma, and so many arts and literatures and music are emanating from Brahma. Yet, as we just established, ultimately this is coming from Krishna. And so to illustrate that just in art, we can also look at this picture. So Lord Brahma is celebrated among many reasons for speaking the Brahma Samhita, which we sing in the temple every morning, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So it's a beautiful description of the glories and the attributes of Govinda, of Krishna. So Lord Brahma composed and spoke this Brahma Samhita spontaneously upon hearing the flute song of Krishna. So in this way, we can see here that the sound of Krishna's flute, and in that sense, the inspiration is entering through the ear of Lord Brahma. So in that sense, we can say that whatever beautiful creation is coming from Brahma, he is receiving that inspiration from Krishna. And actually, in this sense, from the creation of Krishna, from the creative expression of Krishna, that he plays the flute, that he plays music. And in this way, inspiration is flowing. Okay, so we'll enter into this next topic, Krishna's creative energy, but first just wanted to pause and see if anybody had any reflections or thoughts so far. Nice to have a discussion. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. In your opening comments, you talked about the rules and regulations as potentially limiting to our creativity. But I was also thinking about the rules and regulations being kind of the impetus to focus our creativity and then explore new areas of being creative within that focus. So kind of driving the depth of the creativity rather than the breadth.
Yes, yeah, that's beautiful. I appreciate that. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, that we want to go deep, and sometimes if there aren't some limitations, we may not go particularly deep into any area. Yeah, that's a really great point, and it's a really practical point because those of us who may have kind of a bit of a contrary nature about rules and regulations, just to remember that yes, this is helping us to go deeper. Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments? Follow Krishna from.
I was thinking about envy actually, when Lord Brahma is saying that Krishna is the source of all creative impetus and energies. So how Krishna distributes this to individual souls is also up to him. So I was just thinking, like, when we feel or notice times of envy, it's actually Krishna who's distributing it in the way he sees fit. So the funny thing in my mind that happened was, like, instead of being envious on the other person, now my envy is towards Krishna. Like, okay, why are you doing it this way?
Yeah, that's interesting. That Krishna allocates different functions to different people. Am I hearing you right? Yeah. So and of course, as we know, Brahma himself becomes envious toward Krishna in certain instances in the Leela. So that's an interesting point. Yeah, thank you. Ramaji, Haribo.
I was thinking about this first point you made about Brahma kind of creating, but not of his own, like, well, let me rephrase it. I was thinking about the idea that I think most creatives have, artists and et cetera, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. Whenever you're beginning a new project, there's always this struggle of originality and trying to be like, you can easily get to a point where you're like, well, everything's already been done.
Totally.
So what am I, how am I gonna make something new?
Mm-hmm.
And, what people who don't use that, who don't get to that point, either they haven't succeeded enough, or they haven't, maybe they're not introspective enough. And sometimes that adds to their success because they're just too dumb to realize that. But in general, there's this point of not kind of just thinking, how do I do something new? And I really like this, what you're mentioning, how Brahma, he doesn't let that sort of thing bother him. And you didn't quite enunciate it like this, so pardon me for rephrasing
No,
it.
this is great.
But that he actually sees the source of all creativity, and there's a sort of dharmic sensibility about it, of recreating what was already created.
Yeah.
Now, the question I always wonder with this is, was it exact? Is it, exactly how it was in the previous, age, the previous cycles? Or is there always some sort of slight different change? You would think that there would be.
Yeah, you would think.
But I like the idea, and I think this is the thing that most artists also come to the conclusion of. You take what's already there, you can twist it a little, but it becomes something fresh either way. But the idea as a bhakta, to connect it and see the divine in it, allows us to kind of move to the side and not feel like we have to be the doer and we have to be the originator of an idea, rather that we can just step aside, like what George Harrison, his sort of connection of like, it wasn't me, I just put some chords together.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this is really great. Yeah, so much to consider in terms of, on the path of creativity, we may feel very easily that there's nothing new or original or novel to be done, or sometimes it can also feel like this very forced, endeavor to try to come up with something novel. We may come up with something that has the air of originality, but we don't really feel inspired about it. It doesn't really touch our heart. It's like, okay, well, I came up with something original, but it doesn't have a lot of value. And when you were sharing this about, that's a great question. I don't know the answers to that question, but is it the same every time? Is it the same? But what I got to thinking about is that, so like Brahma, for example, when he's creating, if he's rediscovering the creation of Lord Narayan, at the same time, we can almost liken it to like what we see in the history of preaching, for example, the history of sharing Krishna consciousness. That you have like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada, and we have our Srila Prabhupada. Their moods are pretty different, but at the same time, Prabhupada is very, very faithfully sharing what his spiritual master offered him. And so we hear so often about essence and form, so like really preserving the essence. But the form may differ, and it seems like in that form, in the expression of the essence, that's where we find a lot of the personal touch that kind of comes out. Even one who's trying to be completely faithful to what has been given, still there's this inevitable aspect of kind of individuality, this inevitable aspect of our guna, our qualities coming out through what we're sharing. And according to time, place, and circumstance. So like that's another, so I feel like that can apply in many ways. And one who's sharing like that, their touch is inevitably upon it. And to give kind of like a mundane, kind of example, that there's like one songwriter, Shishirada Muralidhar. There's one songwriter who I have always been really inspired by, and his whole thing was that like he just idolized the Beatles, completely idolized the Beatles, like from the very beginning, from like his teenage years. And actually he wasn't trying to do anything original. Like, when you hear like, something he said or whatever, he wasn't trying to do anything original at all. He was actually just trying to be the Beatles, trying to imitate the Beatles. But because he's a really unique person and he had a certain kind of life experience, even his music that he's trying to make to imitate the Beatles has a very unique touch to it. So hopefully in that sense, like I would have to think that Brahma, though he's rediscovering the creation of Lord Narayan, his own personal quality is coming through. So we can talk about being a transparent via medium, right? We hear about that, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it's devoid of our own quality, our own life experience. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Yeah, no.
A few things come to mind, but just a couple. For that reason that you just mentioned, I don't think we have to try to become original, because each one of us is unique
Mm-hmm.
because of gunas and karma, etc. But we have a unique relationship with Krishna, and we're unique individuals. So whatever influences come in, they're going to be filtered through our uniqueness. And I think sometimes when we try to be original, quote unquote original, it just comes out as inauthentic. But if we would just be ourselves, there's an originality, there's a certain slight twist to it. Going to mundane examples, Vanilla Ice, Ice Baby, was it? You take out the Queen David Bowie riff from that song, and there's no song. But there's a ton of songs that hip hop artists and other people have done where they've sampled other people's work, but they create something entirely new and original, and it's not dependent on that one thing that another person has done. So therefore, it's original. And to continue the mundane example thing, I have heard songwriters, Bob Dylan, John Lennon, and Paul McCartney separately, Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen, say in different interviews, when asked about specific songs, they said something to the effect of, I can't even claim that song. I can't even take credit for that song because it sort of came through me. Mm. And that's Krishna, because Krishna is the source of all creativity. So it's just, if we would just get out of the way, which is to say, get our false ego out of the way, the creativity will come through. But too often we get in the way, and that stops the creativity from flowing.
Such a great point. Thank you, Bandhu. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like this example of sampling. Yeah, that it's taking something which already exists, but making it your own, and sometimes in such a way that it's not even recognizable. Sometimes it is something really novel in a certain sense, but it's still drawing from what has already been given. Yeah.
I appreciate a lot the flow of the presentation that you're giving, and starting with the 10th chapter of the Gita, Krishna saying he's the source of everything, and then starting with Lord Brahma, about the first created being in the universe. And when you look at the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, they begin with Sarga and Visarga. So primary creation and secondary creation. And primary creation is done by Lord Vishnu. And then secondary creation is done by Lord Brahma. So it's almost sort of like, Krishna in one sense, like, why is there a Sarga and a Visarga? Like, why is there a primary and a secondary? Why didn't Krishna do everything? But he kind of puts the basic, to Brahmaji's point over there, like the basic pieces in place. And then it's like, there is room for that creativity of Brahma to now then kind of make it his own, so to speak. But it rests on his recognition of, as Yadanath was saying, his recognition that ultimately it's flowing from Krishna. Because when Brahma was first created, he had no idea what was going on. Mm-hmm. He was just bewildered. He was climbing up and down the lotus stem and figuring out what was going on. And he finally entered into like an extensive meditation. He heard the word tapas. And it wasn't until he actually aligned himself with Krishna's original creative flow. And it's so interesting when you mentioned the Brahma Samhita, like Govindam Adi Purusham, the original person. Yeah. And so I appreciate those verses that shared in the second canto you're sharing from Brahma. It's that Krishna is always going to leave something for us to do, and we can do it beautifully as long as we recognize that we actually are just a continuation, like an extension cord of Krishna's original flowing energy. So it's a really beautiful meditation. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful point. I'm going to look into that more, the primary creation, the secondary creation, because that's exactly that flow. And and I like what you shared, and we'll get into this about how if we think ourselves to be the creator too much, or we think ourselves to be the doer too much, a lot of the time it completely squelches the whole, experience of receiving inspiration, because we become less receptive and we think that it's just kind of within us, and become a bit of a kind of creative echo chamber.
Ranaswami said something once, a long time ago. He was talking about like empowerment, and he was saying how humility is like a gateway to tremendous empowerment. And like when a very sincere devotee, when Krishna does something through them, like because Krishna sees somebody's humble, he trusts that he can empower them and he won't let their ego get in the way. So he does something amazing through them. And then when something amazing is done through them, they just become more humbled by it. They're like, oh my God, like how is it that Krishna used me to do something so amazing? And then your humility deepens. And as your humility deepens, Krishna like further gives you more amazing things that he's doing through you, because it's like he trusts you that much more. And so then like more amazing things happen. And then when something more amazing happens, like you're even more humbled by what just happened. And like this kind of like this almost like this like it feeds into itself. Like the more humble devotee becomes, the more amazing things Krishna can do through them, and the more amazing thing Krishna does through them, the more humble they become for it rather than proud. And so like this kind of this interweaving of humility and empowerment and creativity and Krishna working through people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that humility hopefully could be the source of further inspiration. That gratitude. Oh wow, Krishna allowed me to kind of work with his creation, or to work with the beauty that he's placed before us. And hopefully I can keep my eyes open and my heart open and my mind open, so that I can kind of behold that more and more and feel that kind of gratitude. And that becomes also kind of the lens of an artist, even in the most conventional sense, is that they're seeking beauty in this world. They're looking for the things that kind of stand out or jump out in some way. Or even if it's something a little more on like you can say negative side, artists are still always looking for something that's striking. So for us, as aspiring bhaktas and aspiring creatives, we can kind of try to move through life seeing where Krishna's hand appears in whatever circumstance it is. So, thank you. That's the change. Okay. Then we got, okay, so we'll talk about Krishna's creative energy here. So this is coming from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20. So, Kriya Shakti Pradhana Sankarshana Balaram. Prakrita Shrishti Karena Nirman. So, in translation to this, and I put the synonyms because it's significant, we'll focus a little bit on this first phrase here, Kriya Shakti Pradhana. So, it's being explained, and these are the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's being explained here that the predominator of the creative energy is Balaram, Sankarshan. So this is another angle of how we're seeing that Krishna is the source of all creation. His original expansion of Balaram. So we can say in a certain sense, when Krishna expands himself, it's also a creative act. He's creating his expansion. He's expanding his presence. And Balaram, Sankarshana, is here called Kriya Shakti Pradhana. So it's translated here, the predominator of the creative energy. So Pradhana and Kriya Shakti. So here now we have this terminology. Kriya Shakti is the creative energy. So we can say that as parts and parcels of Krishna, we have our minute contact with this energy as well. And so Kriya Shakti, it's just, I found it interesting, I found it helpful to put a term to it, and that it can be found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this is a different topic, but I forget where the reference was. I'll look for it. It's also in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It may come up later. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also calls Krishna at one point Kala Nidhi, so the reservoir of arts, Kala, of arts and culture. So in that way, Krishna is always, expanding himself through this Kriya Shakti. So this is also coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Madhya Lila. So this is Ishwarera Shaktiye Shrishti Karaye Prakriti Loha yena agni shakti aya daha shakti. So dull matter alone cannot create anything. The material energy produces the creation by the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Itself has no power to burn, but when iron is placed in fire, it is empowered to burn. So again, just giving some philosophical understanding of how creativity, how creation really works. And again, this is really nice because it also instills that humility that Dayal Guranga Prabhu was mentioning, that, you know, dull matter alone cannot create anything, right? So we can think of that in terms of material mind. We can think of it in terms of our own, you know, kind of perspectives. Without being immersed in the fire, the iron cannot burn. So if we're not understanding things in terms of this is coming from Krishna, and if we're not kind of seeking that connection with the fire, as it were, with our spiritual inspiration, with that kind of wellspring of insight and clarity about what lies before us, then we are not very much empowered. So even those unknowingly, right? We can't say that every creative person, you know, who has existed is a theist or is practicing in this way. But on some subtle level, this is what's happening. This is the exchange, that the empowerment is coming from some spiritual exchange that's going on there, and that Krishna's instilled us with that inherently. So, as mentioned, as Krishna's parts and parcels, we have a natural creative impetus, however minute. And so this is a really nice lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave at Sri Chaitanya Mat in Vishakhapatnam. This is in 1972. He just gives these incredible insights about creativity. I wanted to share this with everybody. Would someone like to read, if anyone's eyesight is okay? Otherwise, I can read it from here. Okay.
The jiva are explained in the Bhagavad Gita as part and parcel of Krishna. The example is given just like the fire, big fire, and the sparks. The sparks are small, but in quality, they are fire. They are not different from fire. So Krishna, he is all powerful. We are also powerful. Krishna can create. We also can create. Krishna can create just like the innumerable planets floating in the air. We can create a small, teeny aeroplane or Sputnik flying in the air. You see? So the creative power is there, but there's far difference between Krishna's creative power and my creative power. The difference between Krishna and me is this, that suppose I am painting one nice flower, so I require the brush, I require the color, I require the intelligence, I require the time, so that somehow or other, in few days or in few months, I paint a very nice colorful flower or fruit. But Krishna's energy is so experienced that by working his energy, many millions of flowers, colorful flowers, come at once.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so isn't this beautiful? Just giving that perspective that yes, we have the ability to create. We have the power to create. But it's just as, you know, we are small infinitesimal sparks of Krishna's energy in this way. Same with our creative potency, that we can create, and he gives this nice example of the airplane, and then also that if one wants to be a painter, if one wants to paint a flower, it may take a lot of endeavor to study it very carefully, to make sure the tones are right, that the values, the shading is right, whatever it might be. And also we do kind of filter it through our own vision, through our own perspective. But that process may be very rigorous, even to paint one flower. Yet Krishna, by his potency, just flowers are springing up so beautifully in such variety all around the world. As we speak right now, flowers are whoosh. So it's just incredible to see the way that Krishna's creative energy manifests and how that does carry over to our creative energy. But again, this gives the scale. This gives a very good understanding of how our limitations are there, but at the same time, we are recipients of this kind of creative inspiration, and we have our own opportunity to kind of take it on. So, on the topic of flowers and beauty, And as we mentioned, artists may most traditionally look for what is beautiful. That may vary in different fields of creative work, but at the same time, even one who is kind of say maybe sharing about how miserable and challenging the world can be, something like that, they may be experiencing also kind of a beautiful realization or revelation of that. It may be a painful realization, but at the same time, there's beauty in them suddenly having that kind of zoom out moment, that insightful realization that, okay, this is the circumstance. And then they go ahead and try to depict that in a human way, in an honest way, in a genuine way. So there's great beauty in that as well. So Krishna is the source of all beauty, whether explicit beauty in the form of like a beautiful rose, or kind of more subtle beauty of, wow, it's important to realize this, it's important to take note of that. Or I heard a sad song and it made me feel not alone in my sadness, something like that. So there's beauty in so many different art forms. So Krishna shares here, Yad yad vibhuti matsattvam Srimad urjitam evava Tad eva vakachatvam mamatejo misha sambhavam. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada shares, any glorious or beautiful existence should be understood to be but a fragmental manifestation of Krishna's opulence, whether it be in the spiritual or material world. Anything extraordinarily opulent should be considered to represent Krishna's opulence. So again, just kind of bringing this point home that all creative inspiration is coming from Krishna, all beauty is coming from Krishna. And as we're able to kind of remember this in the course of our own kind of creative experiences, it becomes an act of devotion. So that's the point that we're going to be moving on to. Any thoughts in the meanwhile? Okay, well, oh, was that? Yeah.
Just when Dayal was speaking about the humility feedback loop, I really like the idea of, when we create for our own glory, you're gonna have hope, and then you're gonna have those hopes dashed eventually.
Oh,
You have success ultimately at failure. But if you do it for the glory of God, then there's no failure.
Yes. Yes. This is the principle of karma yoga, attachment to our acts, attachment to our work, but not to the fruits or to the result of that action. It's a really good principle for artists or people who are doing creative things also. Because sometimes I can say for myself, I'll kind of self-censor or self-edit. Say I'm trying to write a poem or something. Oh, that mine's no good, that's it, And sometimes, we may actually kind of withhold the inspiration from ourselves by trying to be, as Rangaprabhu was saying, too much the controller, too much the doer. So if we're able to enter into the process and develop attachment for that, for the process, they speak about in the art world that it's a process art or things like that, but that can be said of anything, that you develop some attachment for the process and then let the result be what it is. And it's very similar to our sadhana in Krishna consciousness. Who can say that every day their japa is fantastic, perfect, right? So if we're able to allow ourselves that gradient in our spiritual practice, why not in our creative practice also? Oh, what I wrote today was not so great, but at least we allowed it to happen. At least we stayed with the process. So I like what you said. No failure, really.
And you create, go from the hope to stress feedback loop to the humility feedback loop. It's like you reprogram yourself
I love that.
by changing the locus of creativity.
Thank you. Yes. So Krishna is the source of so now we have so far, just a review, Krishna is the source of all creation, he's the original creator, he's the source of all beauty, and he's the source of inspiration. And now we're saying he's the source of our abilities and gifts. So Bhagavad Gita, Rasoham Apsukanteya Pravasmi Shashi Suryaho Pranava Sarva Vedeshu Sabdha Ke Parusham Rishu O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. So quite self-explanatory, but we can say that whatever abilities we have, whatever abilities anyone has, is coming from Krishna ultimately. And also, again, Krishna in this verse is touching upon so much that we experience in life, right? The taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon. Light of the sun and the moon is such a muse for so many creative people, time immemorial. So Krishna's saying here, yeah, that's me too. And then the syllable Om, so this is pranava, this is the source of all sound. So this is also relevant to those who are interested in sound art or things that invoke sound, and again, sound and ether. So yeah, again, and Krishna in so many places in the Bhagavad Gita is sharing that he is at the root of so much that is beautiful and inspiring and splendorous. So when we're trying to make some creative offering, whatever it might be, we're aspiring to offer back all that we have been given, all that has been placed before us so generously by Krishna. And even our life experiences, even our painful experiences, whatever it may be, in the ultimate spiritual sense, we're trying to see that this is something that's been given to us for some reason or another, whether we can understand it or not, right? But, as Prabhu was saying, the humility, the consciousness of humility and gratitude may come. And it can be an expression of that gratitude to try to offer this back. So a farmer grows a fruit, and then after all the labor can pick the fruit and can offer it to Krishna. And that's one example. But there's so many examples like this, that seeds are being sown in our lives. And when that fructifies, whatever form it may take, we try to find a way to offer it back with some gratitude, some recognition. So Krishna, of course, is sharing in Bhagavad Gita, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yat juhosi dadasi, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Arpanam is this offering. So whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So again, this is just something that fits into this paradigm. Oh, yeah. And that we try whatever is happening, or we're trying to offer it back to Krishna. And for those of us, who are engaged in some creative process, whatever it is, I'm inclined to do this as a hand gesture, but it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. Doing this, we can also call that an austerity. That can also be an austerity in some cases. Anyone who's ever had writer's block or anything like that can relate to this. That there is an austerity that can be there. So again, we're trying to offer back what we've been given in gratitude. And Krishna may very much appreciate and be pleased by what we're able to offer back. So an example is given quite often of, like a child may behold a bird, like some beautiful bird, part of Krishna's creation, and then try to make a drawing of it, or try to glue macaroni to a paper to give some semblance of what that bird is like. And it may not exactly reflect, what the reality is. It may not be the glory of the bald eagle in the macaroni picture. But at the same time, Krishna accepts our macaroni picture, as it were. Krishna likes to see that we are appreciating what he has placed before us. And our own way of seeing it can be an offering to Krishna. Even the Vedic scriptures, it's described, forget where the reference is, maybe someone can share, but that the Vedic scriptures may be imperfect, but nevertheless they are appreciated by people who are thoroughly honest. So in that way, we can try to at least place our sincerity into whatever it is that we're doing, despite any perceived imperfection there. So this is also on the same topic. So I'll just jump to translation. So in this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me and this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So what we're talking about here is the principle of yukta vairagya, and Prabhupada explains it in the purport. He says, Rupa Goswami says that as long as we're in this material world, we have to act. We cannot cease acting. Therefore, if actions are performed and the fruits are given to Krishna, then that is called yukta vairagya. So we're forced to act, we're compelled to act according to our nature. So if our nature is to engage in creative work, or whatever our nature may be, we try to find a way to connect that, this yukta, this connection, and in that way we're freed from kind of the material result of it by offering it to Krishna, making it about Krishna. So yeah, a lot of talk about this yukta vairagya principle and different understandings of it, but the ultimate kind of heart of the understanding is that, you know, if we perform our actions and offer the fruit to Krishna, then in that way it becomes transcendental. So there are countless ways in which to make creative offerings. So in the scriptures we have the 64 kalas described. So kala means art in this sense. Described in chapter 45 of Krishna book. I would recommend for anybody to read this. It's really nice. Srila Prabhupada lays out all of the details of the different types of arts. And of course, there are even more than that, as we know. I don't think that performance art or video art is mentioned in the Krishna book, but at the same time, we understand that these all have their origin in the ultimate kind of wellspring of art. And it is really exciting to read these different arts. So just to paraphrase this passage, Prabhupada is explaining how Krishna and Balaram, though they're the source of all knowledge, they're playing like ordinary human beings. And so they recognize, they want to demonstrate to us that it's important to seek knowledge. So they go to Gurukul, they go to school, they learn, and they take knowledge from Sandipani Muni, right? So after hearing from their teacher, this is where they're extraordinary, they're not playing as ordinary human beings. After hearing only once from their teacher, Krishna and Balaram learned all the arts and sciences in 64 days and 64 nights, so one day for each of these arts. Wouldn't it be great? They learned all the necessary arts and sciences required in human society. So, nevertheless, though in their own extraordinary way, Krishna and Balaram are showing how the arts can be learned and cultivated. And here's the list, which I can, email to you if you like. Just wanted to show everyone, just as a visual. It's really nice to see, and I'll just pick out a few here. They're so interesting. Telling what is written in a book without seeing it, and telling what is hidden in another's fist. So that's some kind of magic, in a certain way. And then composing verses mentally. Lexicography and knowledge of poetic meters. Disguising one kind of cloth to look like another. Awakening one's master with music at dawn. Jugglery, the art of disguise. Decorating the earlobe. Wrapping water pots, into this art. Applying aromatics, perfumery. It's unlimited and so exciting to read this list. Okay, so I know we have to wrap up here. Just wanted to share some considerations toward our personal offerings and give space also for everyone to share thoughts. So these are just some kind of questions. I don't mean to bombard, but these are whatever sparks some thought in you, I encourage everyone to share. So first is that bhakti requires internal work and introspection. It's almost like a second track, like two train tracks, right? So we have our sadhana, we have our seva, but there's also the internal work. There's the internal introspective part of spiritual life. So art can be very important in that way. And we can ask ourselves, do we have space for introspection? And if not, how can we cultivate that? Self-honesty, getting to know ourselves through creative work. That can also be an offering to Krishna, because we're ultimately trying to offer our full self. Krishna knows our hearts in full, so we pray to offer everything to him. And so many things, different considerations. I want to be respectful of the time, of course. So thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Let us continue these conversations and discussions and questions over prashadam. We'll now have kirtan now in Arti. We can actually break down some of these non-cushion chairs, set them aside, put the cushions over to the side, and make space for kirtan. Hare Krishna. Premanandaji, let's sing something.
Hare
Shrimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paragachikacharya Stotra Shri Shrimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Hemsa Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunara Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Dev Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Kali Kadama Harinam Sankirtan Yajna Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Vandana Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Sharanam Prabhade
Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So thank you all again so much for being with us. Thank you to Dina Bandhu, who I think has flown off in the spiritual world somewhere. But let's go ahead and give him a round of applause. I'd like to make a special announcement. I'd like to give a big welcome to Adbhut Krishna and Rajvilasini and their beautiful new child. Remember, one of our newest members of our community. Please be loud. Please time spending Hari Bol for them. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! I don't know if this is Rajvilasini's first time at the Bhakti Center since coming back from India, but it's the first time I'm seeing you. Is it your first time here also?
After coming back from India.
After coming back from India, yes, beautiful. And remind us the name of your son again, Rishikesh? Rishikesh, yeah, beautiful. And how old is he now?
5 months.
5 months, he's on his way, beautiful. And so thank you for creating him, and creative impetus and energy flowing from secondary creation, that was a secondary creation. So glad that you guys are here, so glad that he's here, and that you're all back together again in our community. We love you, missed you, and we're really glad that you're here, and wishing you all the best and support at every stage along your journey.
Thank you. So glad to be amongst extended family.
Yes. Thank you. So thank you for being here. We're here every week, same time, same place. We hope that you can join us more often. We have a Gaur Purnim coming up this year. It's going to be a multi-day affair. Gaur Purnim is itself on Monday, March 6th. We will be celebrating Monday, March 6th, but also over the weekend. We're having a communication going out this week. We're also planning to celebrate something on the weekend as well, to give people an opportunity. Not everyone's able to make it on a weeknight or an evening. So we'll be celebrating a couple of days leading up to the day of Gaur Purnim itself. So mark your calendars, it's coming up. It's being sent out this week as a heads up. Our gift store downstairs open. Please go down there and buy some stuff. Get a gift for somebody. We have lots of community groups that have just launched. If you know anybody, we have beginning Bhakti groups. If you or somebody you know would like to start getting to know the Bhakti Center more, or maybe take their next step in their Bhakti, we have growing Bhakti groups. And so we have various community groups that you can check out on our website, scan the QR code on the first floor. Or also we have home summons as well. If you'd like to get connected in home summon, please come see me afterwards or check up when she gets back, which is tomorrow. Last but not least, we have Prashadam in the back. Please stay, make a friend. If you'd like to help clean up afterwards, taking volunteers, myself, Ari, Keshar, who will be cleaning up. If you want to help, just come see me. Thank you again so much for being here. Hare Krishna.
You're welcome.
Thank you for showing on Sunday. Yeah.
A week ago.
Yeah. So you're doing it. He was in the flower festival. He gave a talk. The group over there at the Eco Village. Yeah, it was really sweet. I don't know if he just happened to be in town or.
Yeah.
He wasn't there. No, because he had to go to something. He was there for a minute. His father died. Yeah. Very last minute.
Oh, yes. And
So I don't know if it happened to be back, it just happened to be in town.
like last year, it's
Come and be a spiritual
good to see you.
father for all of us in this festival. So, but he came in
Okay.
beautiful.
I'm Adi Lakshmi Mother Krishna Das.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it as well.
Yeah, I can help with Oh, thank you so much, really appreciate it. Remember your name again? Good. I'm Keisha. Yeah, nice to see you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll just be just. Sure. Of course. It's all on the website.
For someone who's like
We don't have any online dating classes, do we? It would be nice.
No, she's completed.
She in the beginning?
Yeah, actually, Quran completes.
You think it's online?
online, just
Usually.
connected.